Okay, then I'll take the MPB catheter from you. And a bit of saline. Let's have some saline first. Since we're up in the atrium keeping the sheath out of the way, I might as well measure the atrial pressure. We started at 15. We've just given him, or will shortly give him, 80 milligrams of furosemide IV, which will be perhaps more rapidly potent than his daily dose, but it's still well below his typical daily diuretic dose. Okay, I've clipped my pressure transducer in place between its three-way stopcock and the actual transducer, so there isn't a wandering baseline. So for the entire case, I should have at least precision, hopefully accuracy as well. And now our atrial pressure has climbed dramatically to 21, and that's the point of that preload. That's why we're thinking about fluid restriction and diuresis, because we don't want pulmonary edema as a result of just increased preload, even though he has good heart function. But this is also what's going to drive diuresis for him. Let's mag up. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do this in every case, but it's up to you to see whether you think that you can safely bring the sheath at least a short distance into it. I wouldn't advance it much beyond that point. Now, one thing that you can see, let's see that native, is that the device is narrowed not just by the portal vein entry, but by design as well, and that's that constraining membrane. So before we even dilate to 8 millimeters of mercury, let's find out what the portal pressure is. So we'll take that catheter. This is a 65.
Correct.
So you know what, let's take the black, which is longer, just so that we're in the portal vein. This is like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. That one's too short, that one's too long. The guide wire. Let's lower the mag. Keep our dose low. And good wire tension. Even though it doesn't have a radiopaque tip, I know by the distance that it's made the turn into that splenic vein. Go ahead and remove it in its entirety. Thank you. I'm going to walk it back a little bit so I'm not in any short gastrics. Okay, and I'm in the main portal vein. So, might as well measure a pressure. We started at a remarkably high absolute pressure of 37, driven partly that high because of the high atrial pressure. And the portal pressure now is 34, not a dramatic drop, but in this case the atrium came up. So our calculated gradient now is actually 33, we'll call our, before dilation, 33 minus 21. So we actually have a gradient, was it 21 for the atrium?
Yes.
So we have a gradient of 12, and our initial gradient was 37 minus 14. So our initial gradient was 23, and without dilating this, we've dropped it to 12. So we're going to dilate the shunt to 8, and then we're going to stop and leave it at 8. So you can see that we've gotten some dramatic effect both on the atrial pressure and also on the gradient with just this shunt. The goal is to leave the smallest tips necessary for the indication, but also specifically for that patient. And there are patients who are higher risk, I'll take the Amplatz guide wire, because of a leaking umbilical hernia and an elevated bilirubin and an unsuitable MELD score, and yet we've still got to shunt them. So we'll take a smaller caliber shunt and maybe only partial diuresis and make them more able to be managed by paracentesis. In another patient, we'll go to lower gradients at the outset because their reserve and their age may be better. So again, it's tapering it for everybody. There shouldn't be just a a fixed idea on one size, one gradient fits everyone. And having an adjustable shunt diameter that'll be more durable, won't continue to expand over time, I think provides a real potential advantage. Okay, we'll take that same 8 balloon. All right, I'll take the slack in the middle. Have you got it?
Yep.
Great. So we've got our wire again in the splenic vein, but not wandering, because we don't want to puncture anything, either splenic pulp or any of those small gastric branches. Now we're going to position it across the stent graft. There's not much reason to magnify just for the extra dose. We can see well enough that we're in place, and we have the balloon for optics today filled with an unusually denser formulation, a little slower to deflate, but want to make sure that you can see it well.
Got it?
Ready.
Okay, going up.
First floor. Ah, you've diluted it just because I said that it would
Yep.
be dense.
It looks too dense.
All right, deflate.
It sounded so eloquent, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Okay. I'll use the occasion to ride the balloon a little bit, but I caution you not to advance it beyond the metal markers. That's a very important point to emphasize. The metal ring that indicates the cephalic end of the bare portion of the viator, because it's absolutely possible to get caught. Consider those the speed bumps on the inside, or the neural surface on the inside of the viator, unlike the PTFE line portion. And you can actually catch that with the sheath and potentially even inadvertently advance the viator forward. So it's very important to stay back, not to hit the top free end of the viator. You saw us sneak in carefully, and not to try to necessarily advance as a routine into the metal end. Somewhere in the middle is the safe ground. That's where we're keeping it. Okay, let's take that off. We're not truly in the portal vein, but we might as well measure the portal vein consistently, so I'll take that Van Andel. While you're giving that back, I'll just connect up to the sheath to see what it is. I know that this isn't going to be the absolute portal pressure, but I'm curious to see how well it'll correlate.
Don't have wire. I have wire.
Small changes in shunt diameter can have dramatic changes in pressure. So, before we take our wire out and measure our splenic vein pressure, I'm actually going to back the sheath up, since I'm already connected to pressure, and get a new atrial pressure. So that was the other reason for setting up in advance. Fewest steps, economy of motion, less adventure. And we can see that even that small dilation increased his atrial pressure by 2 millimeters of mercury, now to a 23. We'll take the wire out. So we're absolutely certain, even before this measurement, that we have met pressure endpoints here. Minimize any kink there. I'm guessing we'll have a 29 here. No luck today from my predictions. My radar is off. So we're calling our final pressure is 32 portal. And what did we have for the atrium? 23. So our final gradient is 9. So the point is, with this absolute pressure of 32, he can still make ascites. It's not just the gradient, it's the absolute pressure, mesenteric venous pressure as well. So we're going to have to depend on diuresing him to bring his atrial pressure down, and that may also happen with paracentesis as well. And as his atrial pressure drops, the absolute portal pressure will drop concomitantly, and we'll have that gradient that we want and the lower absolute portal pressure. And that's going to be the key in getting our result. So we can do our final venogram. Gently inject to make sure of catheter position. I'm going to bring it into the main portal vein at this point because I'm really a little more interested in the shunt. And I'm also going to stand by my word and keep the sheath out of the way. Slow injection first to make sure that I'm not in any branch. Great. If you'd be so kind as to bring up that picture. Yep. I don't know if we can window that from in here, but you'll see that we're still filling all the portal vein branches that we're in. There's still a little bit of trace filling of the umbilical vein. Of course, that can be the strength that I injected, but that's absolute pressure and gradient that matter. It's not about the venogram for ascites patients. So we're done. So our post-procedure care is going to include good diuresis, monitoring his urine output, and keeping his fluids at minimum. We'll check some labs as well. And then I'll see him in about 7 to 14 days to make sure that he hasn't any early signs of any encephalopathy or that there are any other concerns. And once that's okay, I'll probably see him about 2 to 3 weeks afterwards to look for some signs of initial spontaneous diuresis. I've told him that I expect him to need at least 1 or 2 more paracentesis after this because the onset of the procedure will not be that rapid, but then the first clues of effect will be that he won't reaccumulate as rapidly after that initial paracentesis or at all. And once we see that the pattern is intact and things are well managed, then I'll start to see him at 3 to 4 month intervals. We'll probably get a baseline ultrasound for velocity somewhere within the next 4 to 6 weeks.